I didn't buy the new phone because I wanted an upgrade. I bought it because my old one had started doing something that made my skin crawl. It would wake up in the middle of the night, screen lighting the room in a pale rectangle, and show the camera app open as if someone had swiped it there. The first time, I blamed sleepwalking. The second time, I blamed a glitch. The third time, I shut it off completely before bed and still woke to that cold glow. The lens pointed at the ceiling, like an eye pretending it wasn't looking at me. So I replaced it. New device, new number, new passwords. I even set it up with a fresh email, because paranoia makes you thorough when you're tired enough. I live alone. No roommates, no partner, no late-night visitors. My apartment is small and ordinary. A narrow hallway, a living room that doubles as a dining area, a kitchen that smells like coffee no matter how often I clean, and a bedroom with a window that looks onto a brick wall so close it feels like the building is pressing its face against mine. It's not a creepy place. It shouldn't be. That's what made what happened so effective. The first week with the new phone was quiet. No random camera app, no phantom glow. I started to relax in the way people do when they desperately want to believe something is over. I fell back into routine, work, groceries, scrolling until my eyes blurred. Sleep. And then, on a Wednesday night, my phone made the softest sound possible. Not a ringtone, not an alarm, the little chime you get when a message arrives from someone you actually talk to. The kind of sound that implies normal life. I rolled over and glanced at the screen. 3:12 a.m. The notification preview didn't show a contact name. It didn't show a number. It showed a file. Photo. My stomach tightened, but my first thought was stupidly practical. Maybe the new phone was syncing old junk. Maybe I had turned on some cloud backup without realizing. I tapped the notification. A single image filled the screen. It took my brain a second to recognize my own living room, because it was shot from an angle that didn't exist in my daily life, as if the person holding the phone had stood in the far corner by the curtains and aimed toward the couch. The room was dark, lit only by the blue glow of the router and the faint line of streetlight leaking through the blinds. Everything looked slightly flatter, slightly wrong, the way night vision or low light processing makes reality feel like a cheap copy. And there, on the couch, under the throw blanket I always used, was me. Not a blur, not a shape, me. Sleeping, mouth slightly open, one hand hanging off the cushion like I'd fallen into place. The photo wasn't taken from my phone's front camera at arm's length. It wasn't taken from a security cam. It was taken from inside the apartment, from a standing height, close enough that the phone would have captured the soft texture of the blanket and the faint shine on my skin. I sat up so fast, my shoulder cracked. I snapped my head toward the living room. Darkness. Silence. The couch was visible through the bedroom doorway, empty because I was in bed. The photo showed me asleep on the couch, but I wasn't on the couch. I was in bed. That didn't make sense until my brain offered the first of many explanations that would fail me. The photo had been taken earlier. Another night. Another time when I'd fallen asleep on the couch. Someone had it saved. Someone had sent it now. The problem with that explanation was the little details. The book on the coffee table in the photo was the one I'd started reading that evening. The empty mugs pattern was the one I'd used after dinner. The hoodie draped over the chair was the one I'd tossed there before I brushed my teeth. Those things hadn't been there days ago. They were there tonight. My hands went cold. I zoomed in. The photo had no message attached, no text, no "look at this," just the image, delivered like a fact. I checked the sender field. It didn't show a number. It showed a blank name, like a system message. I backed out and looked for metadata. Nothing. I tried to view details. No location, no time, no camera model. Like it had been stripped on purpose. I got out of bed barefoot and crossed the apartment with my phone held up like a flashlight. I turned on every light. The living room was exactly the way it should be, except my heart wouldn't accept that as evidence. I checked the front door. Deadbolt locked. Chain hanging. No scratches around the latch. I checked the windows. Closed. Latched. I checked the bathroom. Empty. The closet. Empty. Under the bed. Empty. I did it twice, because fear makes you repeat yourself. Then I stood in the center of the apartment, surrounded by my own furniture, and tried to breathe like a person who wasn't being targeted by something impossible. I told myself it was a prank. I told myself it was a friend who had figured out my new number. But no one had my new number yet. I told myself it was a hacked account, except the phone was new. I told myself the photo was an old image that had somehow matched tonight's arrangement by coincidence. Except coincidences don't arrange hoodies and mugs and books with that kind of precision. I didn't sleep again. I sat on the couch, lights on, phone in my hand, staring at the doorway to the bedroom like it might deliver answers. At 4:26 a.m., another notification arrived. Photo. I felt my stomach drop before I even opened it. The second photo was taken from the kitchen doorway, angled toward the living room. It showed the couch. It showed the blanket. It showed my living room lights on. And it showed me sitting on the couch, awake, staring at my phone. My face was lit by the screen. My posture was tense. The image caught me in the act of looking at the first photo, like someone had taken a picture of me reacting to being watched. I stared at my own face in the image and felt a kind of humiliation that tasted metallic. Not just fear, exposure. The photo had been taken minutes ago. I could tell because the clock in the background read 4:26. I turned my head slowly toward the kitchen doorway. Nothing. I stood up, heart hammering, and rushed to the kitchen. Empty. I checked the cabinets like an idiot, as if someone might be crouched inside. Empty. I went back to the living room and stood in the exact spot the photo must have been taken from. The angle suggested the photographer had been half hidden behind the edge of the wall, leaning in just enough to capture me. That meant someone could stand there, and I might not notice from the couch, especially if I was staring at my phone. That thought was worse than the idea of a hacker. A hacker can be anywhere. A person in your apartment is close, physical, breathing. I grabbed my keys and left the apartment without thinking. Bare hands, no jacket. The hallway outside was empty, lit by that always-on apartment lighting that makes everyone look sickly. I walked to the lobby and out into the street, where the cold air hit me like reality. My phone still had signal. My hands still shook. I called the non-emergency line because I didn't know what else to do. I tried to explain it without sounding insane. I received photos of my apartment taken from inside. The operator asked if I saw anyone. I said no. They asked if anything was missing. I said no. They asked if there were signs of forced entry. I said no. The pause on the line told me what they were thinking. They sent a patrol car anyway. 2 officers arrived, polite in the way people are when they expect a false alarm, but still have a job to do. They walked through my apartment with flashlights. They checked the locks. They asked if I had a carbon monoxide detector. They asked if I had any roommates. They asked if I took any medications that might cause vivid dreams. I showed them the photos.
One officer's eyebrows lifted just slightly, but his voice stayed neutral. "Could be edited," he said. "Could be spoofed." "From inside my kitchen doorway?" I asked. He shrugged. "People can do a lot with phones." They asked if I had cameras. I didn't. They suggested I change the locks, which was funny because the locks weren't broken. They suggested I contact my building management about who had keys. They suggested I stop engaging with unknown senders. The younger officer, the one who had looked at the photos too long, said quietly, "Do you have curtains?" I stared. "Yes." "Close them," he said. "All of them. Tonight." They left. The apartment felt different afterward, like their footsteps had proven how thin my walls were. I called my building manager at 8 a.m., right when offices open. I didn't say someone is living in my walls. I said I think someone has access to my unit. The manager said only staff had keys. I asked who staff was. He named 3 people. I asked for their schedules. He said he couldn't share. I asked if maintenance had entered overnight. He said no. I asked if the building had cameras. He said the lobby camera was sometimes unreliable. He promised to look into it. I spent the day buying new locks and a cheap indoor camera, the kind that sits on a shelf. I told myself if I recorded my own apartment, I'd catch whoever was doing it. I told myself I'd turn fear into evidence. That night, I installed the camera facing my living room and front door. I set motion detection to high. I closed every curtain. I left a line of tape across the bedroom door frame as a simple seal. If the door opened, the tape would tear. I also sprinkled a thin line of flour near the kitchen doorway, because technology can lie, but footprints are honest. Then I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand and tried to stay awake until morning. At 3:12 a.m., my phone chimed. Photo. I felt the air leave my lungs. I didn't open it immediately.
I opened the camera app first and checked the live feed. My living room looked empty because I was in it. The camera saw me on the couch. Nothing else moved. No shadows. No intruder. Then I opened the new photo. It was taken from behind the curtain in the corner of the living room, the fabric slightly visible at the edge of the frame, like someone was hiding behind it. The image showed my couch, my phone glow, my face tense, and behind me, in the dark hallway leading to the bedroom, there was a shape. Not a full person, not clearly defined, just a darker patch of dark, as if the camera's low-light processing had decided something was there, but couldn't render it cleanly. My skin prickled so hard it hurt. I whipped my head toward the hallway. Empty. I looked back at the photo. The shape remained. I zoomed in until pixels became blocks. It still looked like a presence. My security camera in the living room had not triggered an alert. It hadn't detected motion. According to the camera, nothing was in the hallway. According to the photo, something was close enough to stand behind me. My phone buzzed with another notification from the camera app. Motion detected. 3:12 a.m. I tapped it. The clip showed me on the couch. It showed the hallway. It showed nothing. Not even a flicker. No shape. No movement. Just the same scene I could see with my own eyes. I played it again. Still nothing. It felt like being gaslit by reality itself. One device insisted something was present.
Another insisted nothing was. Then my phone chimed again. Photo. The third photo was taken from the hallway, facing the living room. It captured the back of my head, my shoulders hunched. It captured my hands gripping the phone. The angle was lower than the first two, like whoever took it was crouching. It also captured the front door. The deadbolt and chain were visible, still in place. The photo was taken from inside the apartment. I stood up slowly, like sudden movement might invite something. My heart hammered. I walked toward the hallway, phone light on. The floor flower line near the kitchen doorway was intact. No footprints. The tape seal on the bedroom door was intact. The curtains were closed. The living room camera sat on the shelf, blinking calmly. The camera clip showed me standing now, moving. Still no other motion. The only evidence of an intruder was the photos themselves, arriving with perfect timing, from impossible angles. I didn't call the police again. I didn't want to hear the tone of probably edited. Instead, I did something that felt safer than logic. I left. I grabbed my keys and went to a 24-hour diner, because diners are bright and loud and full of people who don't care about your fear. I sat in a booth and stared at my phone until sunrise. No more photos arrived while I was there. That detail lodged in my mind like a thorn. Whatever was sending them seemed to prefer when I was home. When I returned in daylight, my apartment looked harmless again, like it had been pretending all night. I watched the security camera footage from the time I left. It showed me standing, grabbing my keys, leaving. It showed the door closing behind me, and then it showed hours of stillness. No one entered. No one moved through the hallway. Nothing. But at 3:47 a.m., while I was sitting in the diner, the camera recorded something strange. The living room lights flickered once, a tiny dimming like the building's power had blinked. The camera didn't detect motion, but the audio picked up a faint sound, like a soft tap against the microphone. 3 taps. Even spacing. Then silence. I stared at that clip until my eyes hurt, because 3 taps in that rhythm felt deliberate in a way random noises don't. I told myself it was nothing. Then I realized the photos always arrived at 3:12, and the taps were at 3:47. It was like whatever it was had schedules, or habits, or rituals. That day, I changed my locks. I installed an additional chain. I put a wedge under the door at night. I placed a cheap door alarm that would scream if the door opened. I taped over the peephole because the idea of something looking in made me nauseous. Then I did the thing people do when they want control. I researched. I searched photos sent from inside apartment, and unknown photo messages at night, and phone receiving images no sender. Most results were scams or technical explanations. None matched my reality. One result was a forum thread where someone mentioned receiving photos that felt like they were taken from just behind them. The thread ended with no resolution. That made my stomach twist, because unresolved stories are where fear lives. I didn't tell anyone the details. I tried once with a friend from work and watched her face tighten in that polite disbelief. "That's creepy," she said, in the tone people use when they want a story to end. So I stopped. Night came again. I sat in my living room with every light off, because part of me wondered if the photos needed darkness to hide the photographer. I sat with my phone face down. I listened. At 3:12 a.m., the notification chimed. Photo. I didn't pick up the phone. I stared at it like it was a trap. The screen lit the room faintly. The notification preview displayed one word beneath the file name: look. My throat tightened. I didn't touch it. My phone chimed again. Another photo, then another, then 3 more in quick succession. The diner lesson repeated itself. It only escalated when I was home and present and refusing to engage. I didn't open them. I forced myself to stay still. My hands shook. The room felt crowded with my own heartbeat. Then from the hallway I heard a soft click. Not the front door. Not the deadbolt. A click from inside the wall, like something pressing against a plastic switch. I stared at the darkness of the hallway. My living room camera pointed toward it, its tiny LED the only sign of a watching eye. The camera app didn't alert. No motion detected. But my phone, still face down, vibrated once, long and heavy, like a warning. When I finally gathered the courage to pick it up, I saw the photos had arrived with no timestamps, like they were being delivered out of time. I opened the first one. It showed my hallway, empty, taken from my kitchen doorway. I opened the second one. It showed my hallway again, same angle but darker, like the lights had dimmed. I opened the third. The camera had moved slightly closer, as if whoever took the photo had stepped forward. Fourth, closer still. Fifth, the hallway filled the frame. Sixth, my bedroom door. The tape seal was visible. Seventh, my bedroom door. Closer, as if the photographer stood inches away. Eighth, the tape seal torn, my lungs locked. I looked up at my actual bedroom door. The tape was intact. I looked back at the photo. It showed it torn. I opened the 9th photo. It was taken from inside my bedroom, angled toward the bed. The bed was empty. My heart slammed. I was on the couch and the photo showed my bed empty, which was true, but the perspective was impossible. Who was inside my bedroom? Then the 10th photo arrived. It was a selfie. Not of me. Of my bedroom ceiling. As if someone held the phone up while lying on my bed. The image included a corner of a hooded sleeve at the edge of the frame. My stomach turned to ice. I stood up so fast, the couch cushion shifted. My living room camera immediately sent an alert. Motion detected. It recorded me scrambling. It recorded the hallway. It recorded nothing else. I grabbed a kitchen knife, because fear makes you primitive. I crept down the hallway, light still off, phone light on. My bedroom door was closed. The tape seal was intact. I ripped it off anyway because I no longer trusted my own senses. I opened the door. The bedroom was empty. No hood. No person. No evidence anyone had been there. My closet was closed. I opened it. Empty. Under the bed. Empty. The window was shut. Blinds closed.
The only thing different was my phone buzzing again in my hand, delivering another photo. I opened it right there in the bedroom. It showed me standing in the bedroom doorway, knife in hand, phone glow, lighting my face. The angle was from inside the closet. My stomach dropped. I spun toward the closet, swinging the phone light inside. Empty. But the photo had been taken from inside my closet. My hands went numb. I backed out of the bedroom and into the hallway, breathing too loud, heart screaming. Another photo arrived. It showed the hallway. The angle was from above, near the ceiling corner, as if the photographer was floating or standing on a ladder. Another arrived. Same angle, but closer to my head. Another, close enough to see sweat on my temple. It wasn't just documenting. It was crowding me. Like each photo was a step closer, without footsteps. I ran to the front door and yanked at the locks. Deadbolt. Chain. Wedge. I ripped them open in a panic. because being locked out, barefoot, knife in hand, feeling out, barefoot, knife in hand, feeling ridiculous and terrified. The elevator doors were closed. The stairwell door was closed. The building was silent. My phone chimed again. Photo. I opened it. It showed me standing in the hallway outside my apartment, knife in hand, door open behind me. The angle was from inside my apartment, looking out, as if someone stood just behind my living room camera and watched me leave. I turned and looked into my apartment. It was dark, empty. My camera sat on the shelf. Its LED blinked calmly. Nothing moved. I stepped back inside and slammed the door shut, then locked it with shaking hands. The door alarm didn't trigger because I was the one opening it. The locks clicked into place with a false sense of finality. I sat on the floor with my back against the door and tried not to cry, because crying felt like another sound to collect. My phone buzzed with a message this time, the first text-like thing I'd received. Unknown sender, no number, 2 words, stay still. My blood turned cold. Another message arrived, you move too much. Another, let me frame you. I stared at the messages until the screen dimmed. Then a photo arrived. It was a perfect, bright, daytime photo of my living room. The curtains were open in the photo. Sunlight poured in. The image looked like a real estate listing. My apartment looked clean, empty, staged. It looked like no one lived there. A caption overlay had been added in plain white text. Available. My throat tightened. It wasn't just haunting me. It was rewriting me, making my home look empty, making me look like I didn't exist in it. In the days that followed, the photos changed. They stopped being obviously taken at night. They started arriving during the day, in small clusters, like someone testing how much fear I could carry into normal hours. A photo of my kitchen sink while I was at work. A photo of my bed unmade while I was buying groceries. A photo of my front door from the inside while I was in the elevator. It was impossible because my living room camera recorded no one entering. My locks showed no tampering. My neighbors saw nothing. The building manager insisted no one had a master key besides staff. But the photos kept coming, always from inside. I tried turning my phone off. The photos arrived the moment I turned it back on, cued like a punishment. I tried factory resetting. The photos returned within hours, as if the sender lived deeper than settings. I tried a new number again. The first night with the new number, the phone chimed at 3:12 a.m. photo. It didn't care about numbers. I tried leaving my phone in a drawer at night, under clothes, face down. At 3:12, it vibrated anyway.
When I opened it, there was a photo of the inside of the drawer, my clothes, my phone, the dark fabric, taken from inches away, as if the phone had been photographed in hiding. That's when I started to understand something that made my skin crawl. The photos weren't necessarily taken with my phone. They were sent to it. There was another camera, another device, another eye, and it was inside my apartment, or inside something connected to my apartment. I searched for hidden cameras the way desperate people do. I turned off the lights and used my phone flashlight to scan for lens reflections. I checked smoke detectors, vents, outlets, the little cracks near baseboards. I bought an RF detector online and waved it around like a divining rod. It beeped constantly because modern apartments are full of signals. None of it gave me certainty. The only consistent thing was the time. 3:12. Almost always. Sometimes 3:13. Once 3:11, like it was correcting itself. The time felt like a fingerprint. It was the only piece of the pattern that felt intentional enough to anchor. One evening, exhausted and furious, I decided to stop reacting. If it wanted attention, I would starve it. I muted notifications. I stopped opening the photos. I left the phone in the kitchen and went to bed. At 3:12, I heard it vibrate faintly through the wall. I didn't move. I told myself I was winning. In the morning, I checked the phone. There were 16 photos. I didn't open them. I deleted them all. My phone froze for a second as if resisting. Then it cleared. For 2 days, nothing arrived. The silence felt like a trick, but it also felt like relief. I started to breathe again. Then, on the third night, I woke up, because my apartment made a sound it had never made before. My printer, an old printer I barely used, whirred to life in the living room. The sound was mechanical and sudden, like an animal moving in the dark. I sat up, heart hammering. The printer spit out a single sheet of paper. I walked into the living room with my phone light on and found the paper on the floor. It wasn't a document. It was a photo. A printed photo of my living room, taken from inside the hallway, aimed toward the couch. The same low-light grain. The same angle. But this time the subject wasn't me. The subject was the living room camera on the shelf. The photo had captured it close enough to read the tiny brand logo. And across the bottom, printed in plain black text, like a caption, were 4 words: "Cameras don't see everything." My throat tightened. I looked at my living room camera. Its LED blinked calmly. It hadn't recorded the printer turning on. It hadn't recorded the paper sliding out. It hadn't detected motion. It was as blind as it had always been, only now something was mocking it. I unplugged the camera immediately. The LED died. The room felt darker, not because the camera was a light source, but because it had been a comfort object, a fake protection. I threw the printed photo away, then dug it back out of the trash because I couldn't stand leaving evidence. I put it in a drawer. I slept with the lights on. The next day, I took the printed photo to a friend who worked in IT and begged him to tell me it was a prank. He examined it, frowned, and said it looked like a normal print. No invisible ink, no obvious tampering. He asked where it came from. I told him I didn't know. He laughed once, nervous. "Dude," he said, "someone's messing with you." "From inside my locked apartment," I said. His smile faded. He suggested I change apartments. That was what everyone suggested, once they believed me enough to be afraid. Move. Leave. Start over. Like fear is attached to places instead of people. I tried. I started packing. I boxed dishes, books, clothes. The apartment began to look like a life being removed. The emptier it got, the more exposed it felt. On the night before my move-out date, with half my living room bare, the phone chimed again at 3:12. I ignored it. Then it chimed again, and again. Then my TV turned on by itself, just the blue input screen. Then my intercom buzzed once, even though I didn't use it. Then my phone lit up with a message, not a photo. "Don't leave the frame." My throat tightened. The phrase made me think of cameras, of angles, of being placed. I didn't answer. A new photo arrived anyway. I opened it without thinking because curiosity is a reflex when you're cornered. The photo was taken from my hallway, angled into the living room. It showed my half-packed boxes. It showed my empty shelf where the living room camera used to sit. It showed the couch. And on the couch, sitting in the spot where I had been sleeping when this started, was a person. Hood up, face turned away, hands folded neatly in their lap as if waiting. My blood turned to ice. I snapped my head toward the living room. The couch was empty. The photo showed someone sitting there. My reality did not. I opened the next photo. Same angle. The couch still empty. The person was gone. Like a flipbook, alternating between presence and absence. I flipped back and forth between the two images, heart racing, and realized what it was doing. It wasn't showing me what was in the room. It was showing me what could be in the room, or what had been in the room between frames. Like the photos were snapshots of moments my eyes missed. My phone buzzed with another message. You blink. Another. Camera doesn't. Another. So I do. I felt sick. I backed into my bedroom and shut the door, as if a hollow piece of wood could create safety. I sat on the bed and tried to breathe quietly. The phone chimed again. Photo. I didn't want to open it, but I did anyway because by then I needed to know what it thought was happening more than I trusted my own senses. The photo was taken from inside my bedroom closet, aimed at the bed. It showed me sitting there, phone in hand, face pale. The angle was so close, it caught the small scar on my chin. My closet door was closed. I stared at it, frozen. I turned my phone light on and opened the closet slowly, hoping to find something physical, anything that could be fought or proven. The closet was empty. No hood, no camera, just my clothes hanging and the smell of fabric softener. But on the closet shelf, resting among folded sweaters, was a small object that hadn't been there before. A tiny phone tripod, the cheap, flexible kind, like a little spider. My hands went numb. I didn't touch it at first. I stared. The tripod wasn't a threat by itself. It was an admission. Whoever was taking photos had been using it, had been setting up shots inside my closet, inside my hallway, behind my curtain. I reached out with 2 fingers and picked it up like it might bite. The rubber legs were warm, recently handled. I dropped it into a plastic bag and sealed it. Then I did something I should have done weeks ago. I left immediately. I grabbed my keys and my wallet and my phone and ran out of the apartment barefoot. I didn't lock the door behind me. I wanted the door open. I wanted to stop pretending my locks were protection. I ran down the stairs because the elevator felt like a box. Outside, under the streetlight, I finally breathed. My phone vibrated with a final notification. Photo. I opened it, shaking. It showed my apartment door from the hallway, wide open, dark inside. And standing just inside the doorway, facing outward toward the camera, was the hooded figure, finally looking directly at the lens. The face was still obscured, but the posture felt unmistakably satisfied. A caption in clean white text ran across the bottom. Thank you. Then another photo arrived. It was taken from inside my apartment, aimed at the open doorway. It showed the hallway outside. And in the hallway, running away, was me, barefoot, hunched, phone glow in my hand. The caption read, "Now I can use your angle." I didn't understand what that meant until the next day, when I came back with 2 police officers and my friend from IT, and we searched the apartment thoroughly. We found nothing human, no intruder, no hidden door, no attic access, no vent large enough, no evidence of anyone living there. We did find, inside the closet wall behind a loose panel, a tiny device, not a camera exactly, but something like a transmitter with a lens, the kind of gadget you see in spy movies except real and cheap and ugly. The officers bagged it. They promised to send it for analysis. They asked who might target me. I had no answer. The friend from IT looked shaken now. truly believing. He said someone could have installed it before I moved in. He said it could have been active for months collecting. He said it could send images over Wi-Fi or cellular. He said it might explain the photos. But it didn't explain the timing. It didn't explain why my living room camera never saw anyone place it. It didn't explain the photos taken from angles that required someone to physically stand there at the exact moments I was reacting. It didn't explain the way it seemed to respond to my choices, opening or not opening, staying home or leaving, watching or ignoring. Still, the discovery gave everyone the comfort of a technical solution. They treated the transmitter like the ending. I wanted to believe it was. I moved out that same day, leaving furniture behind because I couldn't stand to spend one more night under that ceiling. I threw away the curtains. I threw away the tripod bag without opening it again. I bought another new phone because touching the old one felt like touching contaminated glass. I moved into a new building across town, newer, brighter, full of people who smiled in elevators. I told myself the nightmare had been attached to that unit, that hidden device, that specific corridor of fear. For a month, nothing happened. No photos.
No messages. No 312 chimes. My body slowly unclenched. I started sleeping without lights. I started leaving my phone face up on the nightstand again. I started laughing at normal things. The normal life returned like a tide, and I let it. On the 31st night, I woke up without knowing why. I didn't check the time. I knew it anyway, the way you know a bruise when you press it. My phone made the soft message chime. I stared at the screen. 3:12 a.m. Photo. My stomach turned to ice. I told myself it was impossible. New phone, new number, new building, new locks. I opened the photo because at that point fear was a reflex, and I needed to see what kind of impossibility I was dealing with. The image was of my new apartment's living room. Same dim streetlight glow, same low-light grain, same angle from behind the curtain, except I didn't have curtains yet. I had blinds. The photo showed my couch, and on the couch asleep was me. That alone would have been enough to break me, except for one detail that turned my mind into a cold hollow. On the coffee table in the photo was a small, flexible tripod, the same spider-legged kind, resting beside my keys like it belonged there. My lungs locked. I looked at my actual coffee table in the dark. Empty. I looked back at the photo. Then another photo arrived, taken from my kitchen doorway. It showed me waking up in bed, reaching for the phone, face lit by the screen. Another arrived from the hallway. Another from inside my closet. The angles were all familiar now, like a signature. My phone buzzed with a message beneath the photos. Plain text, no sender. You moved. I saved the layout. Then, after a pause long enough to feel like it was watching me read, another message. Open the gallery. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. I didn't open anything else. I didn't move. I sat frozen, staring at the glow. And in the silence of my new apartment, I heard something I hadn't heard since the first night it started. The faint sound of someone adjusting something behind fabric. A whisper of movement near the living room window, as if a hand had just slid a lens into place. I held my breath. The phone buzzed one more time. A final photo loaded. It was taken from behind me, over my shoulder, close enough to see the tiny hairs on my arm, close enough that whoever took it had to be standing right there at the edge of my bed. In the photo, my phone screen was visible, displaying the photo itself in an endless loop, image inside image. and in the dark reflection of the phone screen just above the loop, there was a shape where my bedroom door should have been. Tall, hooded, perfectly still. A caption appeared at the bottom of the image in clean white text. "Smile. You're home." I didn't scream. I didn't run. I didn't do anything dramatic, because the part of me that understood the rules finally caught up with the part of me that wanted to survive. Whatever this was, it fed on reaction, on attention, on the proof that I had seen it, that I had registered it, that I had let it occupy my mind. Cameras didn't just record reality. They created it, frame by frame, by forcing you to watch. And I had watched, night after night. I had replayed, zoomed, compared. I had given it my fear in high resolution. I had built its world with my attention the same way a viewer builds a story by watching it. I sat completely still, phone in my hand, and stared at the darkness beyond my screen without looking directly at the door. The phone buzzed gently, like it was purring. Another message arrived, softer than the others in its phrasing, almost patient. "Don't worry, I can take it from here." Then the screen went black, not because it imagined itself off, but because it had decided I didn't need to see anymore. In the dark, the room felt suddenly larger, as if something had stepped out of a frame and into space. I felt my own breath trying to return. I tried to keep it quiet. I tried not to give it sound. And somewhere in my apartment, somewhere close enough that sound could travel without effort, I heard the smallest click, like a lens cover sliding open. After that, the phone never chimed again at 3:12. It didn't need to. The photos stopped arriving because the recording had moved from my screen to my life. I would find a printed image tucked under my keys, a photo of my living room from an angle that didn't exist, dated for tomorrow. A picture of me sleeping, taken so close the blur of motion made it feel like the photographer's hand had trembled with excitement. I stopped keeping the phone on. I stopped using devices with cameras. I covered mirrors. I avoided reflective surfaces. But none of that mattered, because the point was never the technology. The point was that something had learned how to use the idea of a camera, how to turn my need for proof into a door. It didn't need to break in. It didn't need to threaten. It didn't even need to show itself clearly. It just needed me to look. And I did. The last photo I ever received was on a borrowed phone at a friend's house, weeks later, after I'd tried to explain without sounding insane. The friend had laughed awkwardly and offered me their couch and told me I could stay until I got back on my feet. I wanted to believe I was safe because it wasn't my apartment and it wasn't my device. At 3:12 a.m., the borrowed phone chimed. Photo. I didn't open it. I tried to throw the phone across the room, but my hands wouldn't cooperate. My friend stirred, half asleep, and mumbled, "What is it?" I didn't answer. The phone chimed again and again. Finally, my friend, annoyed, reached for it. "Stop being weird," they said, and opened the gallery. I watched their face change in the glow. Confusion. Then a slow, crawling fear. They scrolled. Their thumb moved faster. Their breathing changed. They whispered my name like it was a question. I could tell from their expression what they were seeing without needing to see it myself, because I knew the pattern. Photos of their apartment taken from inside. Photos of them sleeping, photos of me sitting on their couch awake staring at their phone. Photos taken from behind their curtain, from their kitchen doorway, from inside their closet. My friend's hand trembled. "How?" they started. The phone vibrated once, then displayed a message in clean, plain text. "Thank you for showing me a new home." My friend looked at me, eyes wide. In that moment, I understood the final cruelty of it, the thing that made it viral in the worst way. It didn't follow places. It followed witnessing. It moved through attention like a parasite moves through blood. I had tried to prove it was real, and in doing so, I had given it permission to become real in more than one set of eyes. My friend's mouth opened to speak, to ask questions, to demand answers. Before they could, the borrowed phone's camera flashed, once bright in the dark room, lighting our faces for a fraction of a second like a lightning strike. And then the phone chimed softly as a new photo arrived, already delivered, already waiting to be opened, already taken from somewhere inside the room where no one stood.